Welcome to my beautiful garden. As you can see, we're laying things out and getting ready to plant things this year. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I'm going to be working on a bean trellis today, and this is an art and gardening channel, so I thought I'd show you how I do this. I like to use steel posts. I have 3 of them. I also have a pine pole. I like using the pine pole because it's one piece and it's the length that I need. If you don't have a pine pole, you can use 2x4s or any other type of length of wood that you have. And I also like to use baling twine. You can buy baling twine in a box that doesn't have any knots. It's really easy to work with, but I like to recycle the baling twine. There's a lot of local farmers in my area. They use baling twine and cut it off their hay, and so I just go gather it from the farmers. Sometimes it's yellow and sometimes it's orange, and even one year it was pink. This year it's going to be blue. There's some knots in it, so it's a little bit harder to work with, but it works just fine for me. And at the end of the season, when everything's done, I'm able to cut it off the posts and discard of it without too much mess. So I'll be right back and we'll get started. Okay, I used this post pounder and I pounded in these posts right here. They're not exactly 100% even, but that doesn't really matter. It'll work the way it is. I spaced them out relatively even. And now we're going to tie these couple of small pieces like this, because this is a trick that I use to put the post on, to hold it when I don't have an extra set of hands. I'll use this and then I'll lift it up and I'll put it on the top of this post up here. Okay, so then I use this and I pull this up here so that I can just hook it onto here. So it's like an extra set of hands for me until I can lash it on, and then I'll run down and do the other side. Just a minute. Still rolling. Okay, my son's videotaping for me here. He's doing a pretty good job. I'm gonna have you go this way. Okay, so now when I go to lash these on, this is already on here now, so I can just tie me a knot right here, and then I will just go around the post. Let me cut that off a little bit so I've got room to work. And this is how I lash it to the post so that it stays while I'm working with it. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna have to just tie it off this way. I don't think that one won't go around it. We'll just go this way. Doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to function, and so it doesn't fall down when you start building. Okay, I'll do the other side and then I'll show you how to do the net. Okay, I have this all lashed together now on the tops of these 3 poles. I'm going to show you guys how I start to string. I always go horizontally first. And these posts have notches, so I'll start at the bottom, at the very, very bottom one, and it's kind of hard to put in because you're so close to the ground, but I always start from the bottom and work my way up, and that way it gives me a pretty even result. So now I'll come down to this one, and I balled up this twine. I put it all back together and I ball up this twine so it's easier for me to work with. So then I'll come here while I'm pulling tight and go around the post. And I usually go around twice so that it stays where I want it to. Then I'll come down to the bottom one, do the same thing, and I'll tie it off. Usually I lay this out and I cut it the length that it needs to be, a little bit longer, so that I don't have a whole bunch of extra when I'm working so that I can just tie it. So I'll grab my scissors and I'll tie this off and we'll go down and do another one. Okay, so now I'm back at the start and I'm gonna go up 2 and under this one. And if I keep doing that all the way up these posts, it will give me a fairly accurate distance between all of them. I'm gonna pull tight and we're gonna go around it twice again. We're gonna come down to the last one, trying to keep everything as tight as possible. Tight is the key. Now that I'm here, I'm just gonna cut this off about here so that I can hold this tight, and I'm gonna go underneath that second one again and wrap it a few times, and then I'm gonna tie it off. Just like this. This is how I do this. Do it several times. We want to keep these as tight as possible because when we start to go vertically, we want to keep it tight so that it's all pretty relatively the same spaces between everything. I'm going to finish this up and then I'll show you how to do it horizontal or vertically. Okay, I've worked my way up. I'm all the way to the top. You can see that the pine pole and some of the posts are not exactly even, so I do have one more in here, and it's okay that it's not completely even at the top. Okay, so the wind's picked up, so I'm sorry about the audio quality if it messes it up, but we're gonna start now from the top to the bottom, going vertically. So I take it to the end, and I tie it, and I'll put a couple of knots in it just to hold it nice and tight. Pull it tight, and then I follow this all the way down, and I come out about 1.5 feet or so and cut it off because you can't work with the ball of twine on the end of it. So get down to the second string and I'll show you how to do this a little bit better. Okay, so I always start as close to this edge, this post as possible, and I'll go in front of this string and I come up behind it and I'll pull it this way. Then I split these two right here and I come over the front of it and I grab it and pull it through. Then I'll grab the back of this and pull it up nice and tight and pull down tight. I'll show you again. We went over the top, around the back. We're going to split this, go through, essentially just making a knot. We're going to pull up tight and pull it straight back down. Okay, so now we're going to go back up to the top and we're going to do one more because I'm going to show you how I space this. This one's already cut, so I'm going to come out about 4 inches, 5 inches, about the same distance as the strings on the post so that you have fairly even squares. Doesn't really matter, but it makes it look nicer. Once the beans grow up, you're not going to see any of this anyhow. And then it just looks like a pretty green wall. I've used it before for like a privacy type of screen on some years where it kind of blocks out your garden from neighbor's view. It's pretty nice. So I'm just going to keep continuing to go down the way that I'm going. And once I'm all done putting this together, I'll show you guys the finished product. Okay, here's the end result. My son helped me finish it. We've trimmed up all of the excess strings off of the edges and trimmed up the bottom tail ends, leaving them close to the ground for the beans to trail up. We like to plant Blue Lake pole beans, and this whole net will be completely filled and it'll be all nice and green. And then at the end of the season, when everything starts to die back, we just cut it off, wad it up, and discard of it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.